Hello and welcome to another Flashback Bollocks. This is an interview that I'm incredibly proud of. It was a real breakthrough interview for me way back in 2017 when I managed to get hold of James Murphy, as you know, because you can see him wearing his Acid Rain t-shirt there. You'll find out how he got that and what he sent me. It all unfolds during the course of the interview. James was just really cool. I messaged him on Facebook. I found him on Facebook, sent him a message and said, do you want to come on the podcast? He said, what's it called? I said, Talking Bollocks. He said, that sounds cool. And that was that. Little did I know that he was aware of Acid Rain. In fact, I didn't even really find that out during the interview, and I found that out much later. I just absolutely loved doing this interview, and it takes a turn. I don't want to give anything away, but it takes a turn if you haven't listened to this before, and I just couldn't believe what he was telling me. That is why this interview is 1 hour and 50 minutes long. And yeah, that's right. It's a full meal, okay? This should last you your whole day. It is slightly poorer quality because it's from back in 2017, but it was a real breakthrough for me. And James is just an absolutely top quality human being, and as you'll hear, and his story is absolutely incredible. His time in death, Obituary, Testament, all of it. It really is incredible. So I hope you enjoy this one from the archives. And here we are, having a chat way back in 2017. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, that makes a change. It's usually me having struggles with technology at the beginning of an interview. So thanks for stepping in there and putting me at ease.
No problem.
Cool. So look, thanks for doing this. It was incredibly easy to get in touch with you. I thought I was going to be having to hunt you down for days.
Oh no, I've been pretty easily reachable on social media for years at this point.
Well, of course you run your own business as well, so you have to be.
Yep, exactly.
So are you still maintaining the studio then? Is that still your kind of number one gig?
Yeah. That's my that's how I pay the bills, and that's how I stay involved in music on a day-to-day basis. Because I'm not out there touring, and I haven't in a while. In fact, the last time I actually played live was a decade ago. So. Wow. Yeah, actually, probably a little more, actually. The last time I played live on stage was the Roadrunner United 25th anniversary concert.
Wow. Right. Okay. So you don't miss it then?
No, I think I do miss it. I think I'll miss it even. I think I'll be more excited to get back to it once I'm actually physically back in shape to do it. So I'm working on that now. Playing more and more, and starting to write more and more, and I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so I'm doubtful that I'll be bouncing all over the stage like a maniac like I used to. But
yeah.
I do miss playing live. Yeah.
Oh man, tell me about it. You're absolutely right. I've done two stage. I recently did a. I did a dive off a front of house booth into the crowd, and I managed to fuck up a couple of ribs.
That's not fun.
Yeah, no. You see, the body's 47, but the mind is still 17.
Yeah. I know. I'm kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, it's just I go and see an osteopath before we go, before we play shows. I go and see her afterwards, and she's like, "What have you been doing?" And I'll show her a video or something like that, and she's like, "Why would you do that?" So it's like, well, it is what it is. So speaking of health, how are you? How are you feeling? Where are you at in your kind of recovery?
I'm just having a gallbladder issue. I really need the gallbladder removal surgery, which is not that big of a deal. And I'm sure if I were a UK citizen, I would have already had it sorted by now.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we do not have a single-payer system or a national health service here in the States. So, yeah, it's all about the Benjamins, as they say.
Yeah. So basically, you literally, an operation is like anything else that you want. A car or anything. You've got to save up.
Yeah. Now, if I wanted to just abuse my system, eat a lot of fatty foods, and push it to the point that I had such a serious attack that they had to yank it out to save my life, they'd go ahead and do that,
Right. Okay.
Don't work on you on an emergency basis. It's the preventative care, or the otherwise normal maintenance,
Yeah.
That they're not, all that great with, sometimes. So, unless you have really good insurance, which, as a musician and producer for years, I never did. So,
yeah, I mean, just getting, kind of like driver's insurance if you're a musician and stuff like that is difficult, because they're always in fear that if you have an accident that's going to prevent you from working in the future, you're going to be claiming loss of earnings. And performers insurance is a tough thing to find for just about anything. But of course, you've got the added problem of being in a country where medical care is seen as something that should be charged.
Yeah, it's a commodity. It's a commodity here, and not a human right, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. So that. Yeah. Well, no system's perfect.
It's just so backwards because ethically they have to work on you if you show up in dire straits in the emergency room. They have to work on you, and solving problems once they've gone past that tipping point is always more expensive and more involved than just maintaining people's health to begin with. So
yeah.
I'm definitely, I'm sure, I'm sure you're aware of the very stark political divide in the States right now. I think you probably have a somewhat similar one in the UK, along maybe slightly different lines. I mean, the scrimmage lines are drawn differently, but
yeah,
in the States, it's pretty well 50-50. People who think that we should have a single-payer type system, and a national health service type of system, and people who absolutely do not think that. And so speaking up as being on one side or the other is definitely fraught. It's a fraught proposition for someone in my shoes, because anytime you open your mouth about anything, it could be construed as political, and it's a shame. It's an absolute shame that healthcare is political.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's no way that's a political issue. It's a human right.
Yeah, but unfortunately in the United States it's a political issue. And so, like I said, it's a very fraught thing to speak up about it, because you're in peril of alienating potentially half your audience at any given moment, because as with no other time in my life that I can remember, more musicians and people who love music and love heavy metal, more of them than ever are really right-wing, conservative, very anti any sort of public health care, et cetera, et cetera. And it blows my mind, because a huge percentage of them are literally one bad stroke of luck away from being in exactly the sort of situation where they would absolutely need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but we have such a polarization here, and we have such extreme right-wing alternative media figures who really reach a lot of these people, and speak to something inside them that just convinces them that, oh, it's just liberal nonsense. Public health care. Why should my taxes pay for anyone else? For layabouts to get health care.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, if they're getting preventative care, it's going to be cheaper because we all pay. All of us who pay tax pay for the people that just show up in emergency rooms.
Well, exactly. Well, the thing is but that is always that is the theory of the far right, which is not just the right in general, which is basically if you're ill, it's your fault. If you're unemployed, it's your fault. If you need help from the state in any way, it's your fault. And basically, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and sort it out. And the vulnerable just kind of get trodden on and forgotten about.
Yeah. One of the, I should clarify for especially for the American listeners that I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I'm independent.
Yeah, me too.
I consider myself fairly middle of the road.
Yeah,
I consider myself fairly middle of the road. I'm somewhat more fiscally conservative than
Yeah.
And but I socially I lean a little more liberal. But I am fairly middle of the road. I'm an independent, and but when it comes like for instance to the dismay of many of my UK fans and friends, I'm very pro gun. I'm very pro Second Amendment. I own guns. I love shooting them. I have a concealed carry permit. I often am carrying a gun on me when I'm walking around and about. No, I'm not paranoid. No, I never fear anything. I'm not worried about anything. I just do. I'm just exercising my right, and I just enjoy shooting. I don't enjoy shooting living things. I don't hunt, but I really do enjoy shooting targets and target shooting. That's fun for me. But and that seems like a very conservative right wing type of thing. At least from a United States perspective, usually people that lean more left or anti-gun. But like I said, I'm independent. I'm somewhere in the middle. It just so happens that on issues of healthcare, I agree more with the liberal side on those issues. When it comes to the Second Amendment, I agree much more with the conservative side. But
do you know what? I'm exactly the same. It's on this issue I'm with these guys. On this issue I'm with these guys, which means that my place is in the middle, and I can't nail my colours to any mast.
Isn't it really weird to comment on those various issues that you share the different sides' opinions with on social media? Because as soon as you go into some sort of group, especially where there's people you don't really know commenting as well, and you say something like if I say something in favor of guns and gun rights, I get the liberal people attacking me as a far right gun nut loony.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, as soon as I comment something about about my opinions on healthcare, I got one of the favorite derogatory names that people on the extreme right seem to really love to use against anyone who has a left-leaning opinion is libtard.
Yes,
yeah. It's sort of a mashup of the words liberal and retard, which is a terrible word anyway, know. But so I get called that a lot, so.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. You express one opinion on one issue, and people will immediately put you in a box marked whatever they've decided that makes you. And you can't have opinions that go from either side. And these people, pick a fucking side. And stick to that. And it's like, well, no, that's such blinkered, outdated thinking. That's how we're ending up in this mess in the first place.
Exactly, and for people who love to talk about like things like the deep state, the conspiracy theorists that really fully believe that everyone's being controlled and there's really hidden power figures in control of everything. If you really believe that, then why would you buy into this one side versus the other dynamic in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a paradigm that's, if there is such thing as a deep state, it's that exact paradigm that that they would use if they existed to control people.
Yeah.
And to keep society on edge and at odds against each other. Because as long as people are fighting each other, they're not paying attention to what else is going on.
Absolutely.
And, as an independent, as someone who I really do feel I'm in the middle on so many, because I have so many differing issues where, okay, I agree with conservatives on this, I agree with liberals on this, I agree with libertarians on this, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I don't necessarily. I'm also not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah.
You won't see me watching Alex Jones or talking about the Greens or the Grays or the
I've got you.
the lizard aliens or the Grays or the et cetera, et cetera.
Our alien overlords who are the lizards who are disguised as human beings. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't believe in freaking chemtrails. I don't, none of that crap.
So
I'm not a flat earther,
Basically, what you're saying is you're not Dave Mustaine.
Well, I'm clearly not Dave Mustaine.
Yeah. Well, speaking of healthcare and all the rest of it, of course, unfortunately, and don't worry, don't want to really sort of rake through the past too much, but of course, the whole healthcare situation played a big role in how Chuck passed as well.
Yeah. I don't pretend to know all the details about that, but I was talking, shortly after he passed. I was talking to his mother and his sister and his nephew quite a bit during that time period, and for a few years after. And over time, his mom, revealed a lot of stuff to me about what went down, and I don't know how much of that is private, so I'm not going to detail any of it.
Yeah.
But definitely, as the best of my recollection of those conversations, which are now, between 12 and 15 years in the past, I definitely got the feeling that he was, he just didn't necessarily get the best of what he could have gotten, perhaps at the time,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean that. Did you start out putting a tribute album together?
I did get started on one. Ran into a combination of financial issues and my own health issues.
Right.
So it got put on the shelf, but I do intend to finish it.
I mean, because it's just so weird, the fact that both of you should get a brain tumors. It's kind of like, wow, what are the odds?
Yeah.
And
compare. It's really it's tough to find the right way to characterize it, and I hate to use the word lucky, but that's the only word I can really think of. I think it's probably the best word. Is that I was just lucky, and that my tumor was, while it was most definitely on the path to killing me until I had it removed, and the surgery itself, which I didn't know at the time that I was having it, as I didn't really know much around the time I was having it. I was my mind was shot. But what I found out afterwards was I only stood about a 50% chance of surviving that surgery anyway.
Well, I think lucky is the right word then, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Then I'll embrace it. I was lucky. Yeah. I was lucky in that regard, and lucky in the fact that despite that it because of its size and where it was growing, it was absolutely going to kill me.
Yeah. In
short order, according to the doctors.
Wow.
It was in fact a benign tumor, what they call a fully encapsulated. It was a benign, fully encapsulated pituitary macroadenoma.
Right. Okay.
Which, so, in other words, it didn't metastasize out and start spreading into other systems and all that sort of thing. It wasn't that type of cancer.
Was there what were the symptoms? Were you in pain at all, or did it affect your personality in any way? Because often it
absolutely affected my personality in a major way. It made me very sort of dull and slow, and have extreme memory problems, and it caused me tons of fatigue. And so I was sleeping, most of the day, most of every day. I couldn't remember anything. When I did manage to get around people, the people that I was around told me, after the fact, after my recovery, that they would be speaking to me, and within the course of a 15-minute conversation, I would ask them the same question several times.
Right.
And they'd just keep answering it, and be like, okay, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
A lot of people assumed that I had gotten on some sort of drugs,
Yeah, that's the first stop, isn't it? That's everyone's going to make. It's like, okay, he's obviously
everybody
out. Yeah.
did. All my friends and bandmates out in California all thought that. So did my family back in Florida. Everybody assumed that I was
funnily
drugs.
Funnily enough, it sounds like you had Bill Stevenson, the drummer from Descendants, had the same thing.
Okay.
He had the same. He had the huge pituitary tumor and all of the personality changes and all the rest of it.
Because you got to think where your pituitary is. It's right underneath your brain, right behind your optic nerve.
Absolutely.
So as it grows, it's putting pressure on those areas of your brain, massive pressure in some cases. In my case, it was massive pressure, because my tumor, they said, was the size of about 3 golf balls. It wasn't uniformly round or anything, but it was spread out, but altogether it had the mass of about 3 golf balls.
Wow.
Which is massive for that type of tumor, massive to have in your head where there's no extra room for anything.
Yeah.
So
you just try and cram 3 golf balls in your head and see how much room there is.
Yeah, exactly. So it was putting massive pressure on my brain, and the other thing that it was doing, and I don't know if you said Bill is his name?
Yeah, Bill, yeah.
Yeah, for me, what it also did, and what it commonly does, is that, because it's just growing outward in all directions, so it's putting pressure on your brain. This causes all the personality changes, the memory issues, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it also starts to press on your optic nerve from behind your eyes. It's pressing on your optic nerve.
Yeah.
And it was affecting my vision. My vision went to crap. It went to total crap. So.
Jesus Christ, that's
just So I could barely see. I certainly couldn't read anything.
That's just a horrendous existence.
There's a whole story about that, because it's actually that symptom is what led to my tumor being discovered.
Oh, right.
And it was just very much an accident. I've told this story, of course, several times, but if you'd like me to run it down, I will, of course.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of. I don't know. It's just that the very fact that we're talking. It's impressive if you think about it. When you were saying lucky, I think, well, ultimately, what you did with that operation.
Hopefully, Bill's was caught early enough that they were able to do a transsphenoidal surgery. The transsphenoidal, they make a slit underneath your upper lip and go up there through your sinus, and they basically just grab the thing, hook it, and yank it out through your sinus.
Ah, right. No, he's got staples across the top of his head.
Okay, so he had to have what's called a maxillary swing, probably.
It was
Did
basically
this recently happened to him?
He was found unconscious, and they basically had to take him in, and they operated on him straight away. It was a few years ago, actually. It's all documented in a documentary about the band called Filmage, which is seriously, if you're in. I will definitely look that up. I'm very interesting to see what another musician who had the same thing as me went through. But the way my thing played out was I was losing everything because I had no memory. I couldn't work. I was sleeping rather than working. I was forgetting everything. I think the last thing I started into the studio was I started an album by the band Abscess. Right.
For like listenable records or something like that. And Chris Reifert from Autopsy and Death.
Yeah.
And I think we did the drums maybe, And then, I basically forgot that I was doing a record. I forgot.
Wow.
I just forgot everything. Now, I don't know exactly how it all played out, but, I ended up running into him at some point in a record store, and he started yelling at me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Oh, no.
I was like, why is Chris Reifert mad at me? I didn't even know,
Yeah.
But it was just really weird. And, of course, when that sort of happens, your business dries up. You're getting no income. I went on a tour with Testament in support. They said I was late getting to the bus to kick off of the tour. Apparently, I missed the bus a couple of times out on the road because they said that I was just sort of acting weird. They thought I was on some drugs. You know, so I parted ways with them right. After that tour for the Gathering. It was a tour in support of the Gathering. I think it was in 2000, and from there I just sort of floated around in Northern California until I was just completely destitute, living on the street, couch surfing. Had lost my loft, everything. Lost my studio, most of my gear, everything was stolen. I didn't, or held by somebody that didn't want to give it back, et cetera, et cetera. So I was essentially, on the street.
Well, also in that condition, you become the easiest person possible to steal from as well, because you don't know what's fucking yours.
Exactly. I didn't know what was what. I mean, years, a few years later, I found out that one of my guitars, a buddy of mine from the band Deface had one of my guitars, and I called him, and he goes like, "Dude, I had that thing for a couple of years, but just last week I traded it for a Marshall Stack because you abandoned it, and I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, I just let it go,
Yeah.
He said he had loaned me some money on the guitar, but of course it was a fraction of what the guitar was worth. So he made out, but I don't hold that against him at all. He's he was patient. He held on to it for a couple of years.
Yeah, right.
But like things like that, just things like that happened to it. Like I guess in some cases I loaned some stuff to people. In some cases this stuff was just in my apartment when it got repossessed. Some of it was just literally stolen right out of the new place, because I had moved to a transitional space after I got kicked out of that apartment. I had managed to get a lot of my gear over there. Some of it was just straight stolen right out of that room, while I was just wandering around and not knowing even what was going on. And what happened, how I eventually got back to Florida, was my sister, some of my family talked.
Oh. Hang on.
What's going on with James? Something's wrong. People are calling us and telling us that things are going wrong with him. Maybe we'll just take some time off work. We'll rent a U-Haul and drive out there and pick him and all his stuff up and bring it back and see what's going on with him. But they never did it because, they just, they're not wealthy. They're working class,
Yeah.
So they never really could do it. But my sister apparently sent me bus tickets 3 different times until finally I got on one of them.
Right.
And apparently I made it in a Trailways bus, a Greyhound or Trailways, all the way from Oakland to Florida. And apparently I arrived with nothing more than just the filthy, dirty, falling apart clothes I was wearing and a trash bag, literally a black garbage bag with a few other items in it. And that was it. That's what I had.
Right, so you were essentially a hobo.
Yeah. And, and my mom picked me up at the bus station, she says. I don't remember it. And, I stayed a little bit at her place, and I stayed a little bit, my sister's and my dad's, but they just kept passing me off. I stayed at my grandmother's because she was still alive at that point, and I stayed at my grandmother's for a while, but, apparently everyone was just getting impatient and upset with me. And one of the main, probably one of the main things that drove that was my father, my biological father, not my stepfather, who had been in law enforcement, and his pretty, even when he was in the military, his MOS was military police. So he was in law enforcement his whole life, and he had pretty much told everyone in my family, had everyone convinced today, look, he's on drugs. He's on drugs. It's drugs. I know. I've been a cop for 30 years. He's on drugs.
Yeah.
And never mind that he drug tested me 5 different times over the course of 5 months, and it always came up negative. His explanation for that would be he's just, he's indigent now. He can't afford the drugs. But they've done their damage. They did their damage to him out in California.
Yeah.
And he just had everyone convinced of that, and so everyone was kind of keeping me somewhat at arm's length, trying to figure out, what to do. But finally, my sister had enough. The same one that sent me the bus ticket money,
Yeah.
She had, her domestic situation wasn't such that she could really, take me on, and my problems and issues. She was barely getting by herself, but she called my father, who was the person in the best position to help me, financially and free time wise and everything else. And she went out and picked me up off the street, drove me to a motel that she could afford a weekend worth of the cost. And she booked me into that motel for a weekend, gave me, bought me some food, things that I could eat, prepare right there in the motel. And then she called my father, and she told him, said, "Look, this is your son. Something is wrong with him. There is something medical wrong with him. You need to pick him up." She's the only one that didn't believe it was drugs, that knew it was something medical, and that knew in her heart. She didn't obviously know technically, but she felt in her heart that it had to be something medical.
Yeah.
And so she called my dad and said, "His time at that motel runs out on this day. You need to be there to pick him up." She basically threatened to disown him.
Wow.
He didn't come and take care. So he did. He came and picked me up at the motel. And despite the fact that he was, fairly well off, medical for an uninsured person is so expensive, it would have ruined him,
Yeah.
It would have ruined him to have taken care of me and tried to pay for it all himself. So he did the only thing he could really think of to do, was to take me down to the county health, where you can get some free health care in the States if you register with the county in whatever county you're in as an indigent. It's not very good. It's long waiting lines, but it's something. You can get something. You can get some kind of health care. They're not going to take care of real complicated things, but simple things, they'll see you and they'll take care of you. And they also have psychologists and stuff like that, psychiatrists, whatever.
Yeah.
So he took me down and registered me as an indigent, and got me an appointment with a general practitioner, who just basically looked at me, asked me how I was feeling, tried to figure out what my symptoms were. Now, you got to understand, the preface to this story is, you got to understand is, in my first couple of days sitting there at my dad's house, he would see me trying to read his newspaper, and how I would struggle and move it at different distances. And he said, "You need glasses, son. You need to get glasses." And he said, "Look, I'm going to get you some. Probably you just need reading glasses. You're that age now. You're in your 30s. Every other Murphy male has had to have glasses by the time they were teenagers, or 20s at the latest. You've made it to your 30s. You need glasses."
Yeah.
And I said, "You're just that age." And I said, "Well, I think it's definitely whatever is causing my other problems. It's happening. It happened at the same time. It developed along with it. I think it's another symptom of what's wrong with me." And that was one of my more lucid moments. I actually remember it. And I was able to actually think of the fact, really comprehend the fact that something was wrong with me, that I was sick. Most of the time I was oblivious.
Yeah.
But, I went in and out of these moments of lucidity, and that was one of those moments, and I remember clearly him getting a little bit irritated with me and saying, "No, the hell it's not. You're just a Murphy man. We've all needed glasses when we were much younger than you. You're lucky you didn't need them until your 30s. We're going to take you and get you some off-the-shelf reading glasses, because clearly you can't do what you've done before. You can't be a producer anymore. You don't have your studio anymore. You don't have anything. You can't do what you did before. Obviously, you're, fucked up for whatever reason, And so I'm going to get you some off-the-shelf reading glasses, and so at least you'll be able to fill out a goddamn McDonald's application." And that was his thoughts on the matter. I needed to be able to fill out a fast food, food worker application. Was that his idea? What I would do in my mid-30s to move forward with my life was to be flipping burgers.
Yeah.
And cooking fries, So, but he took me down to the Free County Health, registered me as an indigent. I saw the general practitioner. All he did was he issued me a prescription for Zantac, which is for heartburn.
Yeah.
I was having reflux, so he gave me heartburn medicine.
Yeah.
That's it. Then because my dad, because I had behavioral issues that were being caused by the tumor, but they didn't know it, they set me up an appointment with the psychologist or psychiatrist, I don't know which it was. And I sat and talked with him, and I don't really remember a lot about that, but I do remember being in the room and talking to him. And I just remember that the main thing I remember about it is when we went to leave, he wrote another appointment. He said, we'll see him again in 2 weeks. And, I think we definitely, have some things to talk about. We got some issues we can work on. Like he believed it was, that he was a psychologist. So it's like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what I mean? You're a psychologist, everything looks like crazy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the very least, he wasn't qualified to diagnose my actual medical issue. And apparently neither was the general practitioner, who all he did after examining me was issue a prescription for Zantac. But true to his word, my dad took me to this little place called OptiWorld on the way home from that first appointment there at the county health. And we dropped by this OptiWorld and we went in. It's basically an eyeglasses place. You can go get your lens prescriptions filled, choose your frames, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And all things related to eyewear and what have you. And there's a lot of, designer frames. It's a really nice little store, But I think the guys that man the counter that work there are at the very least opticians. They're not ophthalmologists, but but I think they're at least an optician level. And it was just me, my dad, and this one guy that worked there in the store. It was just a weird time of day. No one else was in there. And my dad started pulling the off-the-shelf reading glasses off the rack and said, try this, see if you can read this text. And I just kept trying on the different strengths. And they weren't really working, and my dad was getting a little bit irritated with me. Because he thought I was malingering, as they say. He thought I was full of shit.
Yeah, basically.
But I got impatient with him because despite the fact that I was in a very compromised state mentally, I was still a grown ass man, and not used to having my dad treat me like a teenager.
Yeah.
So I spoke up and I said, "Look, man, it doesn't matter which one I try on. Some of them I can read the text better than others, but what the problem is that there's just certain spots. Like I have to move the paper around to get in that spot because there's spots in my vision that it's like someone smeared Vaseline on my eye. I can't see through it. No matter what you put,
yeah,
you would have to, no matter what glasses you put, if there's Vaseline on your eye, no glasses will help you,
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like to me. And the optician guy heard me saying this to my dad, and he came up and he said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I wasn't, eavesdropping, but, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I would like to give you a free eye exam." And of course, my dad heard the word free, and I was like, "Oh yeah, free,
yeah,
do free stuff." And so I got sat down to do an eye exam, and this guy is just doing that thing where they look at the back of your eye, with that little scope thing that they hold up to your pupil and they look in.
Yeah.
And he did that thing called what I'm doing right now, and he explained it to me as he was doing it. He was like, I'm looking at the back of your eye now. And he was just looking, and it was only about 30 seconds or so before he said, "Well, Mr. Murphy, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to what's the word to it? Refer you to an ophthalmologist. I'll write you a referral. I'm fairly confident when I say that I think you have a pituitary tumor and a very large one, and it's pressing on your optic nerve, and that is what is causing your visual disturbance."
Shit.
And he said, "And you're right. No glasses will help you with that." And
please tell me that you were able to go and deliver this information to your dad, and that there was a
no. He was standing right there. That's what you got to understand. He was standing right there the whole time.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't take me like into a room or something to do the eye exam. He did it right there within a few feet of where we were standing anyway.
Right, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And so he heard this in real time. And, you know, the real clincher of the whole thing is once I was actually positively diagnosed, you think that would kind of stick him in the craw a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, just you think that would have woken him up a little bit, but the reality is, after I was positively by the ophthalmologist and then a neurologist diagnosed with a pituitary tumor, that's when my dad admitted that he himself, just a few months earlier, just a month or so before I showed up in Florida, so it was several months earlier, he had been diagnosed with a pituitary tumor.
Oh, my God.
But, see, get this. Because my dad had good insurance, his was discovered when it was the size of a pea. And so all he ever had to do was take one pill a day.
Yeah.
One pill. Mine was discovered after it was a massive emergency, the size of 3 golf balls, and I was nearly about to die. And the thing is that this type of tumor is genetic. It can be passed on from father to son.
Right.
And he had this type of tumor and never bothered to even think, maybe this is what's wrong with him, much less just even inform me, oh, by the way, son, I've been diagnosed with this type of thing that can be genetic, so you're going to want to watch out for it. He's never done that. He's never done that with me. He got diagnosed with heart problems. You know, I didn't find out till he was about to go into surgery. I'm just like, oh, so you tell me when you're going into surgery because you want the damn moral support, which of course I give him because I do love my dad as much as it sounds like I'm fucking, you know, complaining about him. You know, but you didn't bother to tell me when you were diagnosed with the heart problem because this is also genetic and can be passed down to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You tell me these things, man. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So he had been diagnosed with that exact same type of tumor. So yeah, he really stuck it to him. And of course, at that point, that's when all of the talk of drugs ceased, and he, you know, then he got fully on board and started, you know, helping, you know, and you know, to get me towards that surgery. And now, still, I had no money, but there's one reason why it might have been kind of good for me that it got so huge, in that it was so big that the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa had never, where we were referred to see the neurologist, they had never seen one that big before.
Ah, right. So you become a special case now.
It was a teaching hospital.
Right.
It is a teaching hospital.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity to show the student doctors, you know, an extreme case of that type of tumor.
Yeah.
Because most of those surgeries they do them with that transsphenoidal. They just make an incision underneath the upper lip, up, you know, above your gums, and then go in through the sinus and yank it out.
Yeah.
Whereas mine, they had to do what they called the maxillary swing, where they literally cut my cheekbone away. They cut my cheekbone away, literally cut along the orbit of my left eye, down the crease left side of my nose, and then through the center of my lip, and peeled my face back, cut my cheekbone away, cut my sinus and moved it to the side, and went in underneath the orbit of my left eye. Then they also propped my mouth open. They made a custom mold of my teeth, so they make a brace that wouldn't hurt my teeth, that would hold my mouth open for the several hours of the surgery.
Yeah.
They made an incision in my soft palate,
yeah,
in the roof of my mouth, and went in that direction as well.
Fucking hell.
To get that thing out. And
Jesus.
so they got it out. They got it all out. You know, well, actually, they said they got 70% of it out, and the rest they gave me that same medicine that they gave my dad, except whereas my dad had to take 1 a day, I had to take 5 a day. And that was after the tumor got reduced by 70%.
When you came round, was it like coming round and remembering who you were and going like, right, okay?
No, not really. That was a gradual process as my brain slowly decompressed.
Right. Okay. Right. Got you.
And went back to shape. It was sort of a slow process for my brain to decompress. It was not instantaneous. And I was on so many medications at first. And the weird thing is you would think they would, I mean, this was 2001, so you would think still, that's modern technology, beyond the turn of the millennium, that there should be no case, computer technology was so far advanced and being able to track all these things, that there would be no instance in which someone would be prescribed and given times of day to take things of medications that were what doctors refer to as contraindicated, which means they're not meant to be taken together.
Right.
They could cause problems, cause issues. I was taking 3 contraindicated drugs, and they were causing me to have insane hallucinations. Insane.
Wow, right.
I wish I could even describe them to you, man. Just like, oh, man. I was like, people were walking, like, everything was like tinged in like a dingy brown light, and everyone looked like freaking zombies, and if any of their flesh sloughed off, it was like biomechanics in there, like weird alien biomechanics and guts. It was just gross, and this is what I was seeing this walking around.
Shit.
Another time, everything was just everyone was bathed in a blue glow that was so strong and such a deep blue that you lost everyone's features. You just saw the outline, and everything was awash in this. And there was just hums that sounded like a freaking alien spaceship. I mean, it was just weird. But it was all because of the medication. And once it was discovered, that I was doing this, and it was discovered because I asked.
Yeah, right.
Again, like, time and time again, I had to force my dad to believe things, that I thought, So I said, I think I shouldn't be taking all these medications at once. He would go, oh, nonsense, they wouldn't have prescribed it to you. And, and what he would do is, because I couldn't open my mouth more to slit while the soft palate healed, because they can't suture the soft palate. It has to heal on its own.
Yeah.
So they made like a prosthetic that was meant to cover the hole. It didn't. That's another thing I had to prove to him, that it didn't cover the hole. But, he thought I was full of shit, everything I said. But finally, we were at the doctor, and I said, when he asked if you had any more questions, I spoke up, because my dad always went in with me.
Yeah.
And I said, should I be taking these medications at the same time? And I told him the list. I had memorized it. And he said, no, I don't think so. And he hopped on a little computer terminal they had there, and he said, no, definitely not. This could cause you serious problems. And I was like, I just look at my dad, shaking my head.
So you and your dad, does he listen to you these days?
Oh, we get along. Yeah, we get along good. It's always been a weird relationship with him, but I do love my dad, but he was as you might say, a right bastard.
But it's that kind of law. It almost sounds like it's that law all those years in law enforcement as well will do that, don't you? Because you just hear people.
Oh yeah,
talking
law
so
enforcement
much.
In the military. Yeah,
because you hear people talking so much bullshit all the time that you just kind of take that on as your worldview.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to prove everything, and it was weird. But I was a grown man, but I was kind of under his power because I was just in this medical situation. I was fairly helpless, and I. In every way, so I had to, I was relying on him. So, but he did, he had to be forced to do what was right. But once he knew it was real, he was, on board.
Yeah.
And of course, I see him all the time now. He lives only about 20 minutes from me, 15-20 minutes from me. I go over to his house. We get along great, but he's my dad. That's just the way it was. It was a weird time.
Yes, yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it's.
But hey, this is the guy who probably the reason why I started playing guitar, because he played, and he wasn't very, he was just sort of the guy type of like strum and sing like kind of folk songs and country songs.
Yeah.
Just the sort of strumming. He didn't really play anything. He certainly didn't play lead guitar or jazz or anything like that. He just did basic, old school rock and roll, folk, and country, and he would just strum along, do the strumming patterns, and sing. But because he had a guitar in the house, I gravitated to it.
Yeah.
When he let me play it, which sometimes he wouldn't let me play it for long periods of time, and then one year he's just like, here, play, take it with you to school every day. So it was really weird, but he was probably instrumental in me playing guitar. He was also instrumental in me into just getting into music, because he had a great, in the 70s, he had this great old Marantz hi-fi, stereo system that was just amazing.
Yeah.
And a huge record collection that I used to listen to all the time. And then once I started getting my own records, I would listen to him on his system when he didn't know. It was fun telling him years later, yeah, I used to play your stereo all the time. He never caught me. When he wasn't home, I was banned from touching it when he wasn't home, but I did all the time, of course. But,
well,
so he was instrumental in a lot of ways in that. And, and he also took me to my very first concert in 1979, and I sat on his shoulders the entire concert in 1979, watching Kiss on the Dynasty tour.
Ah, right. Okay, so you're that era. I speak to a lot of people involved in who've been involved in thrash and death metal and all the rest of it, and so many first gig Kiss or first album Kiss or big Kiss fans. I mean, I definitely think Kiss have influenced and produced more music. Or better music through the bands they influenced than they did themselves.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, no doubt.
And your career, your sort of professional career starts with like a legendary album. Spiritual Healing is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Did you? I'm sorry because I didn't. I haven't got it in front of me, but do you actually play on Cause of Death, or did you, or were you in Obituary after that, after it was recorded?
Yep. Yeah, I did play on Cause of Death.
Ah, right, okay. So in the space of kind of like a year, you're or however long it was, you're playing on Spiritual Healing by Death, and then you're into Obituary, and you're playing on Cause of Death.
Yep.
I mean that's just.
Oh yeah, it was within a year. It was within a year's time. Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, I remember back in the day. Was there a falling out between you and Chuck, or was it just a parting of the ways?
Yeah. No, there was a falling out. I mean, anyone that sort of remembers the history of Death of the first, several albums, there was sort of a pattern of falling out.
Yes.
But. Yeah. But yeah, I'd most definitely take my share of the blame for the falling out, no doubt. I was headstrong, and I wasn't of a mindset to be controlled. I didn't really have a problem with doing what I was told if I agreed, ethically and with what I was told.
Yeah.
So I'm told to show up here for a photo shoot, I show up there for a photo shoot. If I'm told to come to practice these days of the week, I'm there. I'm at practice those days of the week. I'm told to. I'm asked if I got some riffs. Yeah, I got some riffs. Here you go. Here's some riffs. But if I'm told, hey, don't talk to any of these bands at this festival. Screw these New Breed assholes. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. F those guys or F those guys. Don't talk to them. I'm just like, no. I like those guys, and even if I didn't, I would be nice to them. So
yeah,
I'm going to do my thing, And so that kind of thing was a problem where I didn't want to toe the line on who I was told to not talk to, But also, and these are the things that I sort of accrue to his side of the list as to why I left the band. Those are the kind of things that are on Chuck. But there were things that were on me, no doubt about it. I was young and I don't want to say cocky because I never really thought a whole lot of my playing. I've always been my own worst critic in that regard. But I was I probably fought on things that I shouldn't have, and I perhaps also didn't necessarily always speak. I didn't express myself well.
Right.
Like I'm far more well spoken now than I was back then. Now I think I was always, I was a smart kid. I graduated with honors. I've always been a reader. I've had it's been pointed out to me many, many times that I have a vocabulary that people like to poke fun at sometimes. People like to make fun of anything over 3 syllables. If you say a word, that's more than 3 syllables long, people go, oh, that's a $5 word right there. So I've always been, I guess, what most people would call smart or intelligent, but I didn't necessarily always have the best level of social intelligence back in those days.
Yeah.
I came out of this family that was really kind of a bit of a harsh environment. Like I said, my dad was in the military and he was a cop. He was a military cop. And, you have a lot in you from when your first years you leave the nest, you're way more than you want to think you're influenced by your parents and what have you. And I was just, I didn't develop a good way of dealing with people socially that I have now, that I developed over time, just growing and becoming a more full, more complete, more mature human being.
So
I wasn't as socially mature. I didn't have as much social intelligence back then. And I know that rubbed Chuck the wrong way, and rightly so,
Yeah, no. Well, look, I've been there as well. When you're young and you're in a band, you never you never have the. Well, you can't have maturity when you're young. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's the nature of it.
Yeah,
the nature of being young and immature is you're not mature.
Absolutely.
And, we were both young and headstrong. It was kind of like having 2 alpha males in one band, and only one of them is in charge of the band, and that's why I left the band.
Yeah, no, it's it was I remember. Look, I remember as a fan. Well, funnily enough, I remember as a label mate because we were on the same label.
Combat.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I was. I remember, there was. I remember the early years. I remember the tours. I remember the tours that were cancelled at the last minute, and the band coming.
There was Music for Nations in the UK, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember the band coming over without Chuck to fulfil the tour.
Yes.
I mean, it was a strange old time, and there was always something interesting going on in Death in those years. So presumably, you got out, you fell straight into it. Well, not fell, but you kind of. It seems like you walked straight into Obituary in a better situation.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think that I feel closer to spiritual healing than I do Cause of Death for one primary reason, which is that I wrote a lot of music on spiritual healing.
Yeah, I mean, as a Death fan,
I joined the band. They were still in the writing process, and as soon as I show up, they're like, "Hey, we got these 4 songs." I'm saying, "Okay, great, show them to me." And I learned the 4 songs, and they're like, "Okay, great. Now we have to write at least 4 more songs." And they're like, "Okay," and just right away, Chuck's like, "Hey, I got this riff," and he starts playing it, and the band's playing along. And they said, "You got anything that can go after it?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I do," and I just start playing something, And we wrote 4 songs together like that, and so I'm writing on that album. I'm playing on the whole thing, playing rhythm guitars, everything,
Yeah. And
so I feel a little closer to that album, but that's not to say that I don't feel close to the Obituary album. I do, it was like as you noted, my second sort of big album, and of course, we didn't really know they were going to be big albums at the time. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was no doubt a lot of fun. But I think that album was almost like in terms of my solos on it, because that's all I did on Cause of Death was solos.
Yeah.
It was in those terms, it was almost like a reaction, a counter reaction to what I did on Spiritual Healing. Because when I joined Spiritual Healing, I was replacing Rick Ross, who does a lot of bar work, a lot of work with the whammy bar, and Chuck was like tired of that. He was like, "Oh, we just did an album where that's all the other guitar player did was bar stuff, so I don't even want there to be any bar on this album." So I set that thing down, and I actually even lost it. I didn't even know where it was. So we're in the studio. I didn't have a tremolo bar for my guitar. Now my guitars were equipped with tremolo systems, but I didn't have the bar to actually operate them. So So that whole album, Spiritual Healing, except for one sort of what Chuck called a grinder, basically just hitting the low E string and diving, you know. Wow, there's one of those on the album. It's sort of the demarcation line between my solo and mine, or vice versa, I don't remember. On the title track, Spiritual Healing, there's this big grinder between mine and his solos. And we didn't even have a bar in the studio. So once we had the idea to do that as the sole bar work on the album, Scott Burns had to go into the tech room at Moorsound and grab a Phillips head screwdriver, and I stuck that down in the hole, and that's how I did that. But come to Cause of Death, and I had the screwdriver grinder is what I call that thing. But when it comes time to do Cause of Death, I didn't have that restriction. I didn't have that limitation at all, and I thought, okay, I want to show that I don't just hit squeals and wiggle the bar and make crazy Slayer sounds. I have an expressive style with the bar, and I got to show that a bit. Yeah. And so it was almost a counter reaction to Spiritual Healing. But I do love both albums, and I'm proud of my contributions to both.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and Rick leaving and you joining, and the difference in sound between Spiritual Healing and Leprosy, straight away as a fan of Leprosy, and then hearing Spiritual Healing, it was like, right, this there's a definite difference and a progression in the songwriting, and that's why I think as a Death fan at the time, it was like, wow, this is awesome. And then for you to leave so quickly afterwards, it was like, oh shit, that was those guys were onto something there. That's a real shame. But
yeah. There's no doubt that Chuck and I butt heads, and so it was bound to happen. The interesting thing is we didn't really butt heads too much at all until we went on tour, and that's when you're just forced to live together in a
that's
old
always,
tin can driving down the road,
that's it. That's always going to find out any tiny little problems. They're all going to be magnified very quickly.
Yeah.
If
I were a little bit more mature at the time, then perhaps it would have lasted longer. But I was fairly immature at the time, and headstrong, and I think that some of my actions were correct, like refusing to not talk to certain people. I'm glad that I didn't do that,
Yeah, absolutely,
But there's definitely things that I regret, But would I want to change anything about my history so far? Really, in my life, probably about the only thing I would change is this damn tumor, and
Yeah, but
things could have.
I still look at your those early years. I mean, Christ, you were in two of the most influential death metal bands ever, and then you you go and play in a legacy thrash metal band as well.
Yep.
I mean, so how did you end up hooking up with Testament?
Oh, after I did my band Disincarnate. I decided to do my own band after leaving Obituary, and that's how Disincarnate was born. And we did an album and toured, and we had it rough. You got to understand, it was 1993.
Yeah,
and what was happening then?
Yeah,
labels were dumping death metal bands left and right. We were on the chopping block at Roadrunner.
Yeah,
They didn't want to, as a matter of course, necessarily exercise our second option. They wanted to hear demos. And so we were very likely could have found ourselves without a deal like so many newer death metal bands at that time. And so we went and did it, we went and did the tour though, and it was really, really rough. It was a difficult tour.
Yeah.
The most difficult I had ever done to that point, and I had done a number of tours at that point. I had toured with Agent Steel in Europe. I had toured with Death in the United States. I had toured with Obituary twice across the United States and once all over Europe. Of course, and when I say United States, I mean Canada as well. So I should specify North America. I'd been down in South America, and everything, and. But we came home, seriously in the red.
Yeah.
And seriously hating life, and because I had made a conscious decision to hire young guys, really young guys, for a number of reasons. I wanted guys that didn't have family entanglements, that didn't have lots of bills and stuff that they had to pay at home, so that they'd be able to more likely go on tour and be able to deal with it and rough it, and also so they would be a little bit, somewhat too opinionated, and maybe, at that time I just didn't want to argue with anybody. I wanted to bring my vision forward,
Yeah.
So I picked these young guys, but the net result of that is that being their first tour ever and it being really rough, and then being that age where they were just freshly out of high school and still making up their mind, a couple of them decided, you know what, we think we're just going to go to college now. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Unreal. So I'm sitting at home. I eventually had to get a real job. I started working at a place that developed. It's funny to say this in 2017 because almost none of them exist. But in 1993, I was working at a place that made specialized payphones that had extra computerized stuff inside them that helped. It was like a whole new thing that they thought was going to be a huge thing. And I was working there and just hating life after the tour, trying to further with the drummer and working on some new material, but that was it. I had to give up my apartment because we ate so much shit on the tour. And I moved back in with some family and was just hating life, working this damn warehouse. This job at this payphone place in a warehouse. And I get a call one day, and it's Mike Gitter on the phone.
Oh, right.
I'm sure you know Mike Gitter.
Yeah. That's a name I haven't heard in a while, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, you remember back in those days, before 93, before 92, in the late 80s and early 90s, Mike was a music journalist.
Yeah.
So he had interviewed me a number of times, from going way back, and so I knew him from that. And he goes, "Hey, James, Mike Gitter." He says his name really fast like that. Mike Gitter. Yeah, man, I'm actually working A&R at Atlantic Records now. I'm like, oh, cool, right on, man. So I guess you're not calling for an interview, so how you doing? I thought he was just calling to catch up,
Yeah.
People did that from time to time back then because there was no internet, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I thought that's what it was. I thought it was just a social call to catch up. He goes, yeah, I want to run something by you. How would you feel about playing guitar for Testament? And I had... all of a sudden the light goes off. Okay, he's A&R at Atlantic. He must be repping Testament. And I know that Alex recently just left Testament. And they had just done this sort of live EP thing with Glenn Alvarez from Forbidden. And I was like, I guess Glenn isn't a permanent replacement. They're interested. I said, I feel great about that. I feel absolutely great about that.
Yeah.
Because, my band is struggling right now, and I love Testament, and so he said, all right, great. I'm going to have Eric call you, and within a couple of days, Eric will call you. Well, he called me later that day, and probably within an hour or two. And the next thing I know, he's sending me out a 4-track cassette that has a very rough demo of Dog's Face Gods with one of the tracks still open, or I think it was a bounce. So I had a couple of tracks to work with, and I had pretty much the same 4-track cassette, recorder. So I popped it in there, and I wrote my solo for the song Dog Face Gods and recorded it, sent it off to him. They loved it, and so they flew me out for an audition. They gave me a week to learn a set of songs. I jumped on it, learned them, and flew out to the audition and got the gig. And the solo that I wrote on that cassette demo of Dogface Gods pretty much survived intact to the album. I played it almost exactly the same way.
Right. Okay. So that just sounds like that's the music business, though, isn't it? That is ultimately the music business. It's like you know people and they know people, and you get a call sometime, and there you go. Yep.
Exactly. It's exactly the case. You just got to get out. You just got to get out there. I mean, that'd be my advice to kids, and just get out there and do your thing. Get out there and do your thing, and get to know people. Get to know people. Don't be an ass, because you never know who is going to be in a position to make you some kind of great offer or not make it to you, as the case may be.
Well, this is always the thing as well about, especially in bands when they're like, oh, there's not many people. You know, if you're playing a gig and there's not many people there, and it's like, oh, there's not many people here, and it's like, well, you never know who's in the audience.
You're going to play poorly. That has always upset me. You know.
Yeah, and, absolutely, because you never know who's in the audience. If you could be playing in front of 70 people, and there could be 2 people in there that can change your life, and you can be playing to 70,000 people, and no one's going to fucking help you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just never know. And I've had this conversation with a number of people that I've played with over the years who were just like, man, fuck it, I don't even give a shit about this show. I'm like, wrong attitude, dude. Wrong fucking attitude. You don't know. Not only do you not know who all these few people that are here out there are, you don't know who they might be in a year or two.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely, and then there's of course the fact that every single one of them is paid, and it's not their fucking fault that it's a small crowd.
Fault. They're fans. They showed up. They want a good show. You give them a good show, and then they go out and tell people. That's the other thing. You know, do you want the 30 people that showed up to go out and say, yeah, you didn't miss nothing, or do you want them to go out and fucking tell all their friends, you fucked up missing that show? It was sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you want, the latter, you know, every single time. So, if anyone out there is listening to this is the type of musician that gets all bummed when the crowd's small or doesn't seem to be getting into it enough and it affects your performance, you might want to work on that, because there's just a number of reasons why it's an incredibly bad idea. Give your all every single time.
Well, also, I think you get from crowds aren't stupid. They know there's not many people there. So when you come out and play it like it's fucking packed, they take that away. They go, they could have come on and they could have just gone, oh, there's not many people here, but they came on and they played it like it was packed, you know, and they absolutely smashed it.
Exactly.
And I think it makes even more of an impression that way.
There's one thing though that I don't like about when a band comes out to a small crowd and plays it like it's packed. It's almost like there's a way of doing that, the right way of doing that, which I think we're both talking about right now.
Yes, I know exactly what you're going to say.
There's a wrong way of doing that. The wrong way of doing that is you come out and you're basically talking over the heads of your audience. You're not connecting with them at all because you got this imaginary stadium crowd that you're talking to. And
absolutely.
You're pointing at people that aren't even there. You know what I mean? You're acting like, you know, let me hear you, I can't hear you.
No, absolutely.
You're not going to. It's only 30 people. Just talk to the people, man. React to them, you know what I mean? The people that are actually there. Go nuts, you know?
That's it. Well, it's those people are the ones who are, you know, who are in denial, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Living in the dream world. You can come out and play your best show freaking ever to a small crowd and connect with that small crowd on the level of the size that it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give them everything. Leave it all on the stage, you know?
Well, I mean, I've played, having spent as long as I have in comedy, doing one thing that it teaches you is, you know, you have to play the room. You play the room, you play the crowd, you know, you play, and you have to cater your, your set and everything to that particular occasion. And that's something that has served me in such good stead over the years, because it's stand-up is so it's so revealing. I mean, you know, compared to being in a band, it's like being up there naked. People straight away can tell if you're not, well, we call it connecting with the audience. And if as a comedian, if you don't connect with the audience, you can have an absolutely killer set, but it will not work because you haven't connected with them. And I think that's what you're talking about there, is like musically, it's those people who are like you say, you know, talking over the heads of the audience. They're not connecting with the audience, and that's
exactly
and that is just, you know, that's a huge no. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yep. And to the extent that you can, I mean, obviously the vocalist, the singer, is the main person that has to master that ability. And if they don't have it naturally, then that is something that needs to be worked on. And if you recognize that, anyone listening to this that recognizes that in their own band, work on that. Work on that.
Well,
it's important. It really is important.
It's funny you should say that because I just played a festival with the band 2 days ago, and we were supposed to be playing on a second stage, or outdoors. All the stages ended up being closed because of horrendous weather. So we ended up playing in the beer tent, and like a drum riser, no stage, just on the grass. And in a situation like that, it's just like, it's fight or flight. It's either, if you're going to go out there and do it, you've got to do it, and you've got to pull it off, because it's just, I mean, I was singing through a guitar cab, for fuck's sake.
Right.
The whole thing was really just like, put together because it was just it was biblical weather. It was like the end of days, man. It really was. And you've just got to be able to handle whatever shit's thrown at you, basically, because
exactly.
That again, it's like, it's not the crowd's fault that all the stages are closed. It's not the crowd's fault that it's raining like the end of days. It's not the crowd's fault that we can't get a PA into this tent. And you've just got to deliver. Yeah. You've just got to deliver under any circumstances. You've got to deliver.
Yep.
And
absolutely true.
And it's go back to your story. Of course, you kind of. So you did the first album, you did Low, and of course, so you did The Gathering as well, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
And Live at the Fillmore.
Yeah. So you got to play with Dave Lombardo as well.
Indeed. Yeah.
That is so cool. And you get and so the way the whole Testament thing finishes is the beginning of your medical issues.
Yes. Yeah. Well, basically, they could tell something was wrong with me on that tour, and that's why I departed again after that tour.
Yeah.
The general feeling was, you need to go get some help for whatever is wrong with you.
Yeah. That's and that's kind of that's a real shame, isn't it? Because, like you said, the one thing you did that you change about your life would be the whole tumor incident, and it kind of that just put a huge block. I mean, it must have taken you years to get back on your feet.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it did. And I still, I've rebuilt my life in many, many, many ways, but I've had a couple of recurrences of health, scares and various issues that always sort of put me on my back foot, which is a sucky place to be. But nothing's ever knocked me down like that tumor, like that original tumor. So
yeah,
and it was rough to recover from, but I'm recovered. I'm when I'm not having a health issue, which unfortunately I'm still dealing with this gallbladder thing right now. I'm usually very, very, very busy in the studio, and
well, yeah,
I'm always playing on something. I'm actually just about to record a couple solos and maybe more, definitely 2, maybe more for the new Gruesome LP.
All right, cool.
So
yeah, because
I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, because your credits list is just phenomenal. It's like I mean, it's like wow. You have you've and you. I didn't realize that you produced the Hinderers, the Death album.
Oh yeah, yep.
Now you see, I now there's a band that were totally underappreciated.
Yeah. I was a huge fan of their first singer, the vocalist. I mean, nothing against the second singer. I didn't know him and I didn't work with him, so I never had a chance to develop any rapport with him. But I had a really good rapport with the singer from the first album, and working with him and just a real creative guy. And it just and the band's music was creative, was very creative. So
it was.
I just liked it. Something about it, stuck with me, and it led me to want to sort of help them get a deal, which I did.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
So, what you had a demo, or they were using your studio? How did that come about?
No, they one of the main guys of the band had his own studio set up. He's from a fairly wealthy family, so he had a lot of good gear, piled into the bottom of this really nice 2-story house, and he contacted me and said he wanted to hire me to do their new album, his new album with his band, and he let me hear a couple of tracks off their first album that they had done completely by themselves, and it was a very rough effort, but I recognized the creativity there. Some of the things just really struck me, and I was like, okay, great, yeah, I'd love to. And so I went up there to Atlanta and worked out of their studio and recorded the album. Now, they had already done all the drums except for 2 tracks, so I only recorded 2 tracks of the drums, and those are the ones Kevin Talley played on. And the rest of it, we recorded, from scratch again there at that studio in Atlanta. And then I did a mix, and then we used that mix. They actually produced some CDs with my mix, full CDs with my mix, I believe. I do. I still have some of them. And we used those to shop them a record deal. And I was able to get, Monty at Roadrunner interested in them, and I sort of just worked on that until we cinched the deal. And then once they got the deal, they started talking about, well, you produced it. Maybe we'll have somebody else. Maybe we get a different mixer now. Try to get a new mix.
Yeah.
And so they got Colin Richardson to mix it, and there you go. There's the actual album that people know. There's also a version of the album out with the original mix I did. I did that on a fairly small budget, and with a lot of various restrictions on me. So it is it's a cool mix. It's sort of like a historical thing to have. If you want one, maybe I can send it to you. It's a whole album with a couple of different songs. It's missing a few songs that are on the Roadrunner version of the Hinderers. And it has a few other songs that aren't on the Roadrunner version of the Hinderers. And it's just a whole it's more like the demo version of the album. So I mixed the demo version of the album.
Well, dude, I would. Then
I produced the Roadrunner version. Colin mixed, and I think Ted Jensen mastered. So.
Well, I would. No, that's a very kind offer, and I'll bite your hand off. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I really, really would. That'd be awesome.
All right, cool. Yeah. It's like like I said, it's kind of like a demo version, but it's pretty cool because it does have extra tracks.
Yeah, no,
some different tracks.
No, that is cool as fuck. That's certainly not something I thought was going to come out of this chat. That's fantastic. It's weird though because they came across to me as they were like they're very much, and you get this occasionally. They were a musicians band. It's like a bands would you'd hear bands going, "Oh, have you heard?
Oh yeah,
have you heard that? It's fucking great." And all that. But the public just never seemed to warm to them.
Yeah. Well, Emil Wurzler is one of the best guitarists that played in metal during that time period.
Yeah,
he's a really amazing player. I don't know what he's doing these days, but Emil Wurzler is a pretty amazing guitarist, and the bass player. I don't know why I'm spacing on his name, but he's a really good bass player. They were definitely very, very solid, man. Very, very, very good musicians, those guys.
Well, I'm able to help you out as regards Emil.
Yeah, Emil Wurzler, yeah.
Yeah. Do you listen to podcasts at all?
Yeah. I have a few favorite podcasts that I listen to daily. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe one you want to find is called The Metal Podcast. And it's a guy called. It's hosted by these 2 guys called Chuck and Godless. They did the Metal Sucks podcast for about 3.5 years. They're really cool guys. I've had them on my show, and I've met Godless a few times. And he is the guest on their most recent episode. And you can find out all about what he's up to. It's a really, really interesting interview.
All right, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll fire you a link across to that, and that can remind you to send me the DAT stuff.
Yeah, of course, yeah, no problem.
Because I'm never going to let you forget that now. Yeah, that's got to happen.
Oh yeah, no worries, dude. I honestly, I think I have a box full of them in my closet.
Oh my god! Stop it! This is fucking awesome. Oh no, I'm a sucker for a CD. I mean, you know, it's still my format of choice.
Yeah, you should see my collection. It's ridiculous. Howard, I assume this is not live since it's a podcast. So
that's right.
And that you in fact edit. So could I ask you for about 30 seconds?
Yeah, sure. Because what I'm going to do is I'll just pause this a sec.
All right.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, no, it's still my format of choice. I've got I got a new car recently, and it's a 2013 model, and it's just before they gave it a facelift, and when they gave it a facelift, they removed the CD player.
Oh yeah.
So it's potentially it may be the last car I ever have with a CD player. I'm like I can't imagine not having a CD player in a car because I love blasting a CD.
It's upsetting to me, the passing of the CD into history, but I don't know. There's still gobs of them being made, and you can still buy them. Every album is still available on CD. So,
yeah. As much as we keep hearing it's a dead format and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they still keep making them, and that it still keeps outselling. Most other shit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you've got to thank the Germans. Germany is single-handedly keeping fucking physical product alive.
That's nice.
The German marketplace is completely unaware that there's a crisis on music or that it's available online. It's insane. I was talking to Brian Slagle, and he was saying that like Germany accounts for about 70% of all physical product his label sells.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, it's incredible.
I feel like kids are missing out these days, and the really the lame thing about the passing, because I've always been one for progress. I'm fine with progress, but of course, MP3s and streaming, it's not the same quality as the CD.
No.
It's definitely a loss of quality. You can hear it. Some people claim they can't. Well, it's not my fault they got shit hearing,
Yeah.
No discernment, but you can absolutely hear it. But people talk about, you can get FLAC or, internet speeds and storage, drives and stuff are cheap enough now, and storage, everything's so cheap and so fast and so advanced now that you can just do full resolution waves, or FLAC, FLAC is still lossy, doesn't matter, it's not as lossy as MP3, of course, but it's still lossy. But you get full resolution waves, all that sort of thing. Well, that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, the ready availability of all this stuff has not only downgraded the listening experience to earbuds and little mono USB speakers people are streaming to off their phones or what have you.
Yeah.
But it has just devalued music as a part of culture.
Oh, yeah.
It's, it used to be such a crucial part of culture, and now it's almost like a disposable part of culture. It's still, there's more music being made and used than at any other point in history, but that's simply because, there are tools out there for people to make music on the cheap, now, where they used to have to go to a studio and spend a lot of money. But, the net result is there's just too much out there. It's just a glut, and with the technology and streaming and downloading, illegal downloading, all that stuff, it's just it's such a disposable thing now. People don't really sit and listen to albums through anymore. And I guess I shouldn't say that people don't do that. There are people that do that, but it's far less. That used to be the de facto way that people consumed music.
Well, yeah.
And now it's very much more rare.
Well, also, there's the concept playlists are more important now.
I hate that. I hate playlists.
Yeah,
I hate that. I want to hear an album, start to finish.
Well, I want to hear.
That's the way I listen to music. That's the way I listen to music still. And that makes me an old fucker, I guess. But
We're two old fuckers because I do exactly the same. I mean, it's like I'll put a CD in the car, or if I'm listening to an album, on my phone, I will listen to the whole album. Shuffle is not really a feature that plays any part in my life.
Same here. I like to listen to the album in order as it was intended.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think there's value to that. And while it may be hard to quantify that to a really young millennial who's never had that experience, has never done it, they should give it a try. They should try listening to albums. I don't necessarily mean vinyl or CD, whichever, and just sitting and listening. The way I became a musician, I was a musician in my mind and in my heart and in my soul long before I had a guitar to learn how to play. And I had an understanding of music, an innate understanding of music, but it had nothing to do with schooling because of the way I listened to music. I sat in a dark room, like when I was about 7, 8 years old and on up. I would just sit in my room with the lights off, headphones on, my little piece of shit turntable with the headphones plugged directly into it.
Yeah.
Just spinning records, and I would listen to side A and then side B. Sometimes I'd listen to it again. I'd do it twice, and I did that, and I so took in the music because I just sat there with my eyes closed and just listened intently and absorbed it intently, And so, by the time I ever got a guitar, I understood what guitar playing was supposed to sound like. I understood rhythm. I understood, lead playing and melody. I understood it. I understood what vibrato was, even though I didn't know the term for it. I understood it. The first time I ever, tried to play a vibrato, I knew how to make it sound because I had been listening to amazing players, guys with amazing vibrato like Angus Young and, Jimi Hendrix, over and over and over and over again, and absorbing that, and I just don't, I think it's more like a background experience for a lot of people these days. It's just a background experience. They throw it on while they're doing other things, or,
yeah,
maybe they throw it on. Maybe they listen pretty intently sometimes, and it was an all-day experience for me. I don't spend my whole day doing that,
Well, I know exactly what you mean. Unless I'm listening to something that I know really well, I can't do anything else. I have to, it's not that I can't multitask. It's that I don't want to. It's that.
Exactly.
I want to focus.
You want to hear what's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't really peel back the layers on something unless you listen to it intently like that.
Yeah, and of course, I do exactly the same as you. If I got a new album, I still remember to this day. It's crystal clear in my mind. Where the day I got, funnily enough, in the UK, Master of Puppets and Spreading the Disease came out on the same day. So I remember coming home, and I remember taking Master of Puppets out of the sleeve, putting it on, and just sitting on my bed and just listening and reading the lyrics, and that's it for the whole night, 2 or 3 times.
What was the other album?
Master of Puppets and Spreading the Disease.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I literally just
that was an amazing time. That was just an amazing time, and there wasn't so much. There's just so much now, man. And it's ridiculous. There's almost more labels now than there were albums out back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's more labels to choose from. Their entire new set of new releases every month than there were new releases every month.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you know what I mean? That's what it seems like to me. Like we used to go and there'd be 2 or 3 really cool new releases a month, and we'd get them. Now there's there's 20 labels, more, putting out several releases. I'm sure my figures are off, but it seems like that. It just seems like there's just way too much to choose from now. So that experience of just listening to albums and listening to them intently and absorbing them and when songs coming out under one, title and speak of it in terms of, well, there's really no reason to do an album now. You can just do every couple months, just do a single or 2 or 3,
Yeah.
And, and then just put them out as singles and then, et cetera, et cetera. Well, can you imagine can you just even feature in your mind the amount of amazing deep cut tracks that we never would have had, we would never have to enjoy to this day.
Yeah.
It turned out to be amazing, amazing songs, but they weren't written as the singles by these bands, you know?
Yeah.
They were just written because they were in a room together for a month or two writing fucking music, and they had to come up with 8, 9, 10 songs. And they kept going until they did. And like, oh, we got our singles now. We need 2 or 3 more songs, 4 or 5 more songs, whatever. And they just keep writing, you know?
Well, it's interesting.
Sure, some of those are turds sometimes, but some of those cuts are amazing. I would, you know, I would weep at the songs we would lose.
Yeah. Well, the thing
by losing the album paradigm.
Well, it's interesting. Sucked. It's interesting that you raised that, because I've heard that as well. But by the same token, I think there's possibly the people who are going to keep the album format alive are promoters and live bookers, because really now, you know, if you turn around to a promoter or a live booker or anyone like that, and you want to get on a big festival, and you know, so, well, what are you pushing? What are you promoting? They couldn't give a fuck about an EP or a couple of singles. They want to hear that you've got a new album to push, and then they'll consider putting you on the bill. And if you haven't, hit the fucking mix. You know? Exactly.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it, and I think that has been a big thing towards keeping it alive, because, you know, obviously labels want to keep their bands on tour, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the most profitable thing to sell on a unit per unit basis is the album. You know, the full length.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully those factors will keep it alive. You know, I mean, we'll see what happens. You know,
well, the weird thing
one of the biggest proponents of moving in that direction that I know of continues himself to release LPs. So
yeah. Well, the thing is that when you hear about the, you know, I mean, it's kind of like, when you hear about that, oh, we're going to get rid of the album, you know, and we were just saying about, you know, promoters want to hear bands have got an album, but also the other thing is, what's become more important now than ever, as you know, is merch. And nobody is buying merch of fucking singles. They want to buy merch of an album cover. They want to, you know, that's what they want. And so now merch is, let's face it, more important than the music. The music is there just
exactly.
You know, it's there to tempt people into the venue, so you will buy merch, and the merch needs to reflect some new design. And the new design has got to be an album. There's got to be somewhere, you know, there's got to be some feature art to be able to hang your new collection on. And that's
because people are going to be compelled to buy something like that because they are invested in it.
Yeah,
you know, they're invested in their time, and if nothing else, their time and their attention and their, you know, and who invests that much time or attention to a single here and there? Yeah, you know, you burn out on a single and you dispose it. Singles are disposable.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, with the only good job of a single to me, I mean, obviously, if I were in the record business on the label side, if I ran a label, if I were the CFO of a label, I would obviously be interested in you know, whatever, you know, sell as many singles as we can, you know.
Yeah.
But from a musician standpoint, you know, I mean, from their point of view, the job of the single is to make them money and to hook the person to the album. For me, I'm only interested in the hook to the album. You know, if a single goes out there and hooks someone to the album, then awesome.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
You should be able to make a coherent album. You know.
Well, I mean, my band came back in 2015, and we put a new single out. And we put a new single out earlier this year. But all anybody is interested in is, when's the album coming? When's the album? When's the new album? When are we getting an album? When are we getting an album? No one has said, oh, when are you going to release another new song? Not interested. When's the album?
Exactly. And that I see that attitude too from everybody, which really makes me scratch my head where all this talk is coming from of the death of the album and the rise of the, you know, just singles.
Yeah, but maybe
I can only imagine that it must be coming from the market.
I was just going to say that maybe it's the metal community that we find ourselves in that are so dedicated towards the album, and it's the other genres who are kind of going like, well, yeah, can we get away with not making an album? But
perhaps.
Yeah, I think the death of the album has been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. Pretty much as the death of vinyl was all those years ago.
Yeah, and it's making its cut. I bought a turntable about 18 months ago.
Nice. I've never not had a turntable since 1976, I think.
Right, I went completely CD. And then 18 months ago, I ended up buying a turntable, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. It was just like, oh my god! I was at a friend's house, and I set her stereo up for her, and she had Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotten Vegetables in her collection. I said, oh, can we put this on to like test the stereo? She was like, yeah. So I took it out, I put it on the turntable, and I put the needle on it. And just while I was doing that, it just took me back to being a kid. I was just like, oh my god.
Exactly.
This is
unbelievable. Something about dropping that needle, man.
It was the closest thing I've had to a religious experience.
It's like deja vu of however old I was, young, grade school me, peeking out the window to make sure my dad's car wasn't there, and checking the clock to figure out how many more hours before he came home, then going over and firing up his stereo, pulling out one of either his records or mine, and dropping it on that turntable, and then carefully dropping that needle,
Yeah.
Just that deja vu feeling I get of that just takes me right back to the 70s, man.
And do you know what? You've just reminded me as well of the game of Russian roulette that you would play if you were playing. I played a couple of my sister's records when she was out. You played your dad's records when he was out. You are playing a game of Russian roulette there, because it's like if you scratch this thing, they'll know, and they'll know how it got scratched.
Exactly. To be so careful.
Yeah, absolutely. But somehow, no matter how well you look after vinyl, it's gonna get fucking scratched. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, ultimately. Yeah. Ultimately.
That's the one thing that I love my music dearly, and that's the one thing I don't like about vinyl is like that time when you're put the needle on, and you get to a part of the song, and all of a sudden there's a scratch on it, and
yep, you get a skip. Ugh.
Yeah. A jump. That's just that is just head in hands moment. That really is.
Yep.
I mean, and I've loved. I must have bought. I remember when Rain in Blood came out, and it was cut so loud that the stylus would jump out the grooves, and I must have bought 3 or 4 copies of that fucking thing.
Yeah.
I swear it was a marketing thing. And that wasn't cheap, because Rain in Blood couldn't get a release over here. That was an import album. Because
wow.
There was all.
I bet whoever made that decision was kicking themselves after how successful it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is that it ended up coming out on London Records, but the thing is, because of the controversy regarding Angel of Death when it came out in the States, nobody would touch it. Nobody would fucking touch it. So
right.
So and it eventually came out on a totally not metal label. By which time I had
it probably sold like crazy, and then that's when those particular people learned that marketing lesson that marketers have to relearn every so often, is that sometimes the worst controversies are the biggest driver of sales.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Slayer ended up touring Rain in Blood in the UK, had a sold-out UK tour based on an album that was not available in the UK.
Wow.
And just another door that they, kicked down for everybody. But it was just like, wow, that was. No,
I remember it used to be way more touchy about what was acceptable in an album cover or not. I don't know. I'm sure you remember back when Spiritual Healing came out, which was February of 1990.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did this in the UK. I don't even know if you had. I don't think you had these in the UK. But in the States, there was a type of packaging for CDs called the long box.
Yes. Yeah. I remember the long box. Yeah,
and the long box for Spiritual Healing, I remember because and also the cassette was, when it first came out. That's the only way you could get it in the States was in the long box. If you wanted the CD, a big cardboard box that was like more than twice as tall as the CD itself was. Yeah. And had a lot of empty space in there. You basically ripped it open, and pulled the CD out.
Oh yeah, there was no packaging police back then.
The cover art. The long boxes always featured the cover art.
Yeah.
But the cassette and the long box of Spiritual Healing, in not every market, but in a number of markets in the States, it was covered with black.
Wow.
There was a black sheet covering it.
Right.
The Spiritual Healing album cover was considered too controversial in many markets in the United States.
and yet you look at it now, and it looks like a harmless cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a negative representation of religion, specifically of a Christian religion.
Yeah.
Christian sect. It was basically that sort of Southern Baptist laying of hands, sort of, faith healing type of sect, which is still strong here. And certainly in 1990, they were strong enough, powerful enough still, and had enough influence politically that a lot of, they decided for a lot of regions to insert that black sheet to cover the artwork, and then they just put a sticker that just said death. It didn't have the logo. It just said death in like a bold lettering.
Right.
Spiritual Healing. And I actually still have one of those long boxes sealed with the, I'll send you a pic of it.
Oh man, dude, that's incredible! That's incredible.
Yeah, I still have it, still sealed up. It's amazing.
Man, that's because over in the UK, whenever you got an American import, a long box American import, that was just like, oh, this is incredible, because as you say, we didn't do them over here. I mean, can you imagine doing long boxes now? The packaging police would be after you straight away, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah,
how many trees have had to die for your CD long box?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't miss them. But they were cool. They were cool.
Oh,
they did need to go. Environmentally, they did need to go, and I'm glad they did. But that doesn't change the fact that they were cool as shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, well look, James, it's been an absolute delight having this chat with you, man. I really appreciate your time, and I know there's going to be a great reaction to this, and we'll have to do this again sometime, because I feel like we could have probably carried on for another good few hours. Yeah,
no problem. If you want any of my info, if you want to use any of my info, so people can, want to contact me for various things.
Well,
that I do. Like, I'm often available for the right projects, for guest work, musician work, and of course I am a producer, mixer, and mastering engineer. So
cool. So how do people get hold of you?
With my own studio. The easiest way probably is Facebook. I have my personal Facebook, which is facebook.com/James Murphy Producer. Then you can also find my studio page, which is Safe House Production.
Cool. All right, man.
Yeah, and so Facebook is really probably the best way. Safe House Production.
Cool. Okay.
And my email, james@safehouseproduction.com. And that's Safe House, like, I got it from because I have kind of like a compound out here, and so I got it from movies where the spies or the, agents go back to the safe house after an operation, So yeah. It's just Safe House Production, singular.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
.com.
That's awesome. Well, look, thank you, Mary. Thanks again for your time. I am going to send you a link to that interview. Please do send me the picture of the long box and the Daft album.
Will do.
Awesome. Thank you very much, James. I'm sure we're going to speak again sometime. And look, anytime you need any stand-up comedy or some dodgy thrash vocals, you just give me a shout.
Link me to some of your stand-up. What do you consider, your best stuff that because I love stand-up.
It's quite freaky, because I do a character that is a professional Yorkshireman. So it's
a professional what?
A professional Yorkshireman.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of odd. I'll send you the website.
Well, let me. I'm dusty on my UK geography. Is Yorkshire in the north?
Yes, it is. Basically,
All right. So you're playing a northern bastard. All right.
Yeah. Basically, think of Yorkshire is the American equivalent would be Texas.
There you go.
Okay, so basically, Yorkshireman is somebody who thinks Yorkshire is the greatest place on earth, despite the fact they've never ever been anywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I would say a lot of Americans are like that. Where a lot of Americans are really never been anywhere outside of the country, but they're dead sure we're the best.
Oh yeah.
I love my country, but hey, man, get out and go see the world.
Oh, nothing broadens the mind like travel. That's for sure, man.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay,
all right, my friend. Thanks, Howard.
Not at all. Thank you.
From you.
It's brilliant. I will send you. So I'm going to send you a link to that interview now.
Oh, you to what? To which interview?
The interview with the guy from Daft, the guitarist.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I forgot what you were talking about for a moment there. All right,
cool.
Sorry.
All right, no worries.
I was gonna say, don't you have to edit this?
Oh no, I won't edit. I do huge podcasts. And that's what people. I refuse to bend to modern trends of you must have it. Your podcast must be an hour and no more than an hour, otherwise people won't listen to it. It's like, nah, fuck that. People can listen to it in bits and pieces and download it and
yeah.
Often I've put out 3.5 hour podcasts, and people do like that kind of content. It's just again, with the old death of the album.
That's all I listen to in my car.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I listen to in my car now is podcasts. When I'm doing my, when I'm mowing the yard, or as I guess you guys would call it, the garden.
The lawn, actually, mowing the lawn.
Outside. Yeah, mowing the lawn. We call it.
Yeah.
What do you guys call it? Cutting the garden or something like that?
No, mowing the lawn.
Oh, you do call it mowing the lawn. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's the same thing. Just all my British friends usually refer to my yard as my garden. I don't know why, because it's not. It's grass out there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No.
But yeah. I pretty much just listen to podcasts. My favorites are a trio of them that are done by the same people. It's the Scathing Atheist. Right.
It's
fucking hilarious. Then they have a sister podcast called God Awful Movies, and basically they watch a new Christian movie every week,
right.
and they then sit there and go through it scene by scene and tear it apart. It's just amazing. It's so funny, and they're hilarious. And they have another one called The Skeptic Rat, which is sort of political, and it's also hilarious.
Well, I'll definitely check those out, man. I'll definitely check those out.
Yeah, The Scathing Atheist. That's the first one you want to check out.
Cool, man.
Of course, if you're not an atheist, if you're religious, it's not for you. But
well, it just so happens that I have atheist tattoos, so yeah, I'm quite committed.
Right,
I'm quite committed to that premise.
Well, you will probably enjoy The Scathing Atheist, and they're hilarious.
Brilliant. I'll listen to that. I will go and have a search for that now.
Yeah, and then of course they mention their sister podcast a lot. God Awful Movies.
Yeah, I think. Well, we've both shared quite a lot. We've got a few things to check out.
Yep. All right, Bob. I'll let you go, and I'll straight away. I'll pull out those long boxes and snap the pics and send them over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thanks, Howard. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. What a dude! As you can tell, I was a little bit pleased with myself after that. Yeah, just really, really enjoyed doing that. Hope you enjoyed listening to it. Hope you enjoyed that wander down memory lane. Or if you've never heard it before, hey, welcome to the show. There's a Patreon channel as well. Patreon.com/Howard H. Smith. There's a link in the description of the podcast if you want to come on by and help support the podcast. So, guys, thank you very much. Back with a brand new episode very, very soon.